like Black Lives Matter really bugs me a lot because the only Black lives that matter are Black lives that are killed by blue cops. That's you have Chicago now. You have a murder a day in Chicago,
South Side.
South Side. You look at Baltimore. You had the everyone cares about Freddie Gray, the 25-year-old that the cops killed. And the
Yeah.
6 cops got charged. But you don't talk about the fact there's been a homicide every day since Freddie Gray. Black guys killing black guys, and you don't hear anything about it. I think that is a function of political correctness, and that is where the words like racism have lost their impact and lost their meaning. They're thrown around to if someone cuts the head of somebody in a line, you're a racist. I think it's pathetic.
The question about the Black Lives Matters too with the cops, is it because, and this is a question, one of the reasons is that with the police you have an expectation of a certain behavior, and is there a point like, well, yeah, there's been a killing a day, but the people who are doing these murders are treated like criminals and are looked at as criminals and are prosecuted as criminals, whereas the cops a lot of times are always given the benefit of the doubt.
I think that Black Lives Matter achieved the result that you ask for. I think that many people now understand that many African-American mothers are more afraid of the cops when their kid goes out at night than they are other black people or other people in the streets. But I think that it is impossible for me to ignore that there is an epidemic of violent death, that the reason black men don't live or Latino men don't live as long as white men is because they're murdering each other at a rate that is alarming. I mean, you can't ignore, like, Chicago, Spike Lee made the movie. When you see that, and most of that violence is, by the way, drug-related. Who controls this block or that block is nothing about equities. It's gangsters versus gangsters. You can't ignore those statistics. You can't. I mean, Baltimore is a ruined city. Chicago on the south side is a ruined city. New Orleans, Detroit. I mean, I totally get the whole thing with Michael Brown and Ferguson and Trayvon Martin and Akai Gurley and the Pink Houses in Brooklyn. And all that. I get it. It's real. I understand it.
Yeah.
I'm deeply sympathetic. But my goodness, since Freddie Gray, there's been 200 murders. And you haven't heard a peep about it.
Right.
So who's going to rehab the 35,000 derelict homes in Baltimore when you're afraid that you're going to get murdered on the way home?
But that's the media. It's sexier when a cop kills the kid.
Well, you can't blame that on the media.
But part of it is the press. Maybe not all of it, but isn't part of it?
Part of it, I think, is the press. But part of it is the fact that there's that thug life. Much of it, and again, I'll get in trouble again. Much of it, the virtue of which is extolled, and too much of the gangster hip hop, gangster rap hip hop. There's where the thug life is preferred to working 9 to 5 and working for the man and having a boring existence where you actually get a paycheck and you work Monday to Friday, you take off on weekends, you have a house. That's like lame, and you got to have a #1 album with a bullet.
But it's tough because it keeps going back. It's like institutionalized, don't you think? The dad might leave, and then you don't go to college, and so it's hard to get a job, and then it just keeps getting worse.
But isn't part of the problem that the prevailing culture is now down on the traditional route to improving your social status? I mean, if you what are you, a square? You're not going to get involved in this or that. You're going to finish high school. You're going to go to college. You're going to get an entry-level job. You're going to work your way up. I think this is still the nation of opportunity.
Sure.
But I think that, I like Drake. I like a lot of it. But there's too much of it. It's too negative. It's too violent. It's too misogynistic. It's anti-woman. It's it's been very negative, and and we've all been complicit.
A friend of mine had a great point. He said, comedians, we get in trouble for making racial jokes or jokes against women, whatever. But rappers don't get in trouble, and they're not joking. They're talking about it in their songs. My friend Dave Smith has a great joke about it. They're being serious, and we're joking, and we're getting in trouble.
What's the joke?
Well, I'm just saying, you could make a joke about, women in the kitchen or make me a sandwich or whatever, and you get in trouble. Yeah. You're like, well, what about them?
Well, I think that President Obama could have been more effective. And going back to what we said about President Obama, as the first black president, had an opportunity, I think, to affect that. And I think that he has been way too gentle on that. it's not enough that you complain about a young black kid getting killed by a cop is horrible. It's horrible. But then what about the young black kid who kills the other young black kid? That's horrible too.
Sure.